Welcome, everyone, to Built for the Call Strength Through Science podcast, where we take a look at different concepts that are going to help you, whether you are a first responder, a tactical operator, fire, law enforcement, military, even including rescue, EMS, and so forth, or you're an individual taking on the role, the aspect of whether it be self-defense or preparing yourself for emergency situations. So this is either on the first responder side or the civilian side. Anytime an emergency can arise, these concepts are going to help you in those situations or prepare you for the unexpected. Now, in this episode today, we're going to be talking about, and I have 12 strategies here, but we're going to look at nutritional strategies that are going to help improve your academy experience. Now, this can be either the fire academy or police academy. But really, as a fitness and wellness instructor within our local law enforcement academy here, as well as the fitness instructor for our local fire academy, I see both sides of the house, the police side and I see the fire side. Really, the difference, depending on private or regional, within an agency or external, is the duration and the difference. As far as how long you're within the academy, so the law enforcement side, at least the things I'm seeing, you definitely have your day class and night class. Different academies will have different timelines, especially if it is more of a federal ran agency or academy. But usually you see day and night class. Day is usually more sponsored personnel. But day class usually runs anywhere from 4 to 6 months, and then night class may run anywhere between 8 to 10 to 11 months. So timeline may vary. On the fire side, it's very common, especially if the fire academy is not associated or within an agency, then the fire academy is probably going to be about 12 to 14 weeks. So completely different in timelines in all three of those categories. One, in the sense of comparing law enforcement to fire, but then also in comparing the two different classes or timelines within law enforcement academies. So overall, we're going to take a look at these nutritional strategies that are going to help you no matter what your timeline is or which side of the house, right? Which badge you're wearing. These nutritional strategies are going to help you on both sides of the house. So here we're going to take a look at these 12 nutritional strategies, and I'm going to really run through these just because you can really hone into nutrition super or really in depth. And I just want to put these on your brain, kind of food for thought, if you will, in which I have conversations with cadets all the time as they're going through. I lead the physical training preparation, and I get a lot of nutrition questions. And so here I wanted to pull together a lot of my answers, or at least a lot of these different topics that we go over as cadets are going through their academy journey and their fitness journey. So hopefully this can be utilized and leveraged as a resource, not only for the cadets that I work with, to where I can send this as a resource, but academies across the world, maybe cadets, recruits within different academies could also utilize this. So feel free if you're a first responder and you know of instructors in different academies, and maybe you find this information valuable. Maybe you could share this across the board. It doesn't cost anything to share it, and honestly, it can only help those that you're sending it to, and they can make those decisions for themselves as well on if the information is valuable. So let's go ahead and dive into our strategy. So strategy number one, and we know it exists, energy drinks. Now, don't let me lose you on this. I know you're going to consume energy drinks. We can even say that's going to be part of your academy experience. I know too many individuals that consume energy drinks or caffeinated beverages, and I'll loosely say that's fine. What I want you to do is be more mindful of what types of drinks you are consuming, the amount of caffeine you're consuming in a daily fashion. But also, most individuals that ask me for nutritional guidance is not, they don't come to me to ask, or they don't ask me to regulate their caffeine. What they ask me is for weight loss, fat loss. And so my turnaround questions are, do you know what is in your energy drinks? if they are not 0 calorie, how many calories are in your energy drinks and how often you consume your energy drinks. And then we kind of reverse engineer that and go, okay, if you're drinking a fully sugared energy drink, Monster is going to be a very common one that also has a ton of sugar within it if it's not 0 calorie version, to where, okay, let's say it has 200, 300 calories, 400 calories, whatever it might be. And it's going to be straight sugar. And you consume that multiple times a day. Because reality is, I have plenty of recruits, especially in the first couple of months of academy before us having conversations, plenty of sugar within those beverages. But then if you reverse engineer that and look at, okay, the amount of calories in those beverages, how many times you consume per day, and then how many days in the week you are buying those energy drinks and consuming them, you ultimately see that at the end of the week, an individual might consume anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 to 6,000 calories from straight sugar from the energy choices that they make. And so, if we can encourage, and if I can encourage for you to find alternatives, this doesn't mean, because again, I know you're going to consume energy drinks. That's just going to be part of your life in many fashions. If you could reduce those, so I see it in two lights. If you could have a better alternative, is one ask. And then can you manage the amount of energy drinks you're going to consume is another ask. I'm not saying for you to completely eliminate the energy drinks in your life. I'm saying, can we make more mindful decisions? Because with that, if you make a transition, now you have to weigh out pros and cons to go into zero calories, sugar alternatives, and so forth. But if you make a conscious decision to switch from a very loaded, sugar loaded energy drink and swap over to either a lower caloric option, or swap over to something that has very minimal amount of sugar. Usually you see 0 calorie, or you see, 50 calories. And yes, it's going to come from sugar. You're not going to get an energy drink 99% of the time that's going to have any protein value within it. So choosing an alternative, especially if you're looking for fat loss or weight loss in general, making that swap, you are going to start seeing a noticeable change, both in what your day looks like, coming off of that sugar high. You're not going to have a sugar crash. Now, I can't speak for, depending on how much caffeine you consume, but just from the sugar aspect, you'll notice a change in your energy throughout the day. But then also, you will notice, especially if you make that swap and you consume a large amount of energy drinks throughout the week, you're going to notice a weight loss. You're going to notice a fluctuation in your weight just based on how you are choosing, either being more mindful in energy drink consumption or mindful of the calories within those beverages. You're going to see a huge difference. Just something to be mindful there. So now going to our second strategy, pairing your snacks with proteins. So you are in this academy experience. Many times you're going to be in the classroom, you're going to be sitting, listening to lectures. Maybe there's some hands-on activities, but usually you see that later on within your academy experience. So there's a lot of downtime. When I say downtime, there's a lot of sedentary time within your academy experience. And so you're going to sit there, maybe get hungry, whether it's out of pure hunger or from, and I'll loosely say from boredom, in the sense of you're not getting up and moving around. You're just kind of sitting there and listening and maybe taking notes. So you're going to want a snack, especially I know plenty of academies that have snacks either in the classroom or right outside their vending machines. My biggest recommendation is if you're going to snack, most of the time those snacks are going to be purely carbohydrates, or if they're processed foods, have trans fats. They're going to have a ton of fats within that snack as well. And many snacks are not going to contain, especially if you're going to buy them there, vending machine or something that's set out. Many times the snacks are not going to have a protein paired with it. We'll talk about protein importance here shortly. But if you can choose a snack, you want to pair it with a protein. It's going to help ensure you acquire your protein intake, which is very beneficial for recovery, for repair, for muscle building, for preparing for other activities you're going to do. but also is going to help in how your body digests and partitions in the sense of where those nutrients go, what they're used for. Protein is going to also help slow down that digestive process as well, especially if you're intaking some simple sugars. So just pairing with protein is going to go a long way in the sense of how your body is responding to those snacks, and then acquiring the protein that you need for repair and for performance. The next strategy we have is snack selection. So, just like I mentioned, many times when you're acquiring a snack or buying a snack, choosing a snack from somewhere else, if it's going to be in the classroom or a vending machine, many times you're not going to have healthier options or options that are going to have nutrients within them or beneficial nutrients within them for your body for either recovery. You're repairing from the training session the day before, or maybe the curriculum from the day before once you get into patrol skills, defensive tactics, maybe within Fire Academy, live burns, and so forth. So it's the snacks usually aren't helping you recover from as well as they're many times not going to be whole food, micronutrient dense selections. So anytime you can bring snacks from home and prepare in advance, doesn't mean you have to sit there and just eat carrots in class. Doesn't mean you have to sit there and snack on celery. What that means is you can choose your snacks, but you're able to be a lot more mindful in what that looks like rather than just waiting till you get there. You're 3 hours in, 4 hours into your day, and you're like, well, all I can do is buy chips from the vending machine, may as well. And don't get me wrong, in the moment, they might taste great, but they're not going to benefit you in any form or fashion. So, trying to be a little bit more mindful in how you're selecting your snacks. And anytime you can bring those from home is going to go a long way for you. Next, number four, we have monitor your protein intake. This is huge. This is going to be, now I can't say it's the number one strategy or significant strategy that I have here, but it's going to be a huge factor in whether you do see body changes as you're going through academy experience. You may still lose weight if you're not, hitting your protein intake markers, but you are not going to repair the muscle that you need to. And you will probably see a regression of performance, meaning a decrease in performance if you're not intaking protein to repair the muscle that you're breaking down. Because when you're training, you are damaging muscle tissue. You are breaking down the muscle. And then afterwards, when you recover, in the sense of when you rest, do active recovery as well as nutrition replenishment, then you are building that muscle back up. So you either build that muscle back up to where it was prior to that session after you damaged it. And so now you're just kind of maintaining muscle, or you're trying to build more muscle. So you're able to repair what you lost or what you had damaged, and then you're able to grow beyond that. But a lot of that has to do with two different sides of the house. One is total caloric intake, and the other is protein intake. Out of all your macronutrients, protein is what is utilized for repair and for building. And if you do not get in your protein intake, then that physical preparedness program, that physical fitness program, is not going to benefit you in the sense of where you may want it to go. If you want to improve in performance, if you want to build muscle, or sometimes people come to me and say they want to tone, they want to look better, that is building muscle and losing fat. That is exactly what that is. So you need to be mindful of your protein intake. Now, different organizations, there's a couple of different recommendations for protein intake that is highly viable. I see two. One is percentage of calories within your total caloric intake. Usually you see about 10 to 20%. But then on the flip side, I like to look at recommendations based on body weight and then kind of go from there. So I lean towards the NSCA's recommendation of if you're sedentary, it's zero point 0.8 times your body weight in kilograms, and that's going to give your grams of protein per day that you should intake. Then we have 1.2 for aerobic individuals. So they're doing a lot more running, a lot more steady state, very low impact types of activities. And then 1.7. So 1.7 times your body weight in kilograms. And that's going to be your protein intake per day in grams. If you are doing resistance training, you're doing plyometric training, things that are truly breaking down musculature and you're trying to build back up, that's going to be a general recommendation and a very good starting point. To convert your body weight to kilograms, you're just going to get your body weight, divide by 2.2, and then multiply that number by 1.7. And that's going to give you a good guiding point of where you should lean toward with protein intake on a daily basis. Next, we go to nutritional strategy number five: hydrate constantly. Now, there are different rules of thumb for what hydration looks like. What I'll say first is understand what hydration is and where we're replenishing fluids, yes, but we're providing the hydration, we're providing, yes, the H2O, but also the micronutrients for muscle tissue to be able to contract and constantly contract. To be able to perform necessary bodily functions and so forth. And hydration is not just water itself, it's not just H2O, but like I mentioned, it's the micronutrients, the electrolytes that go with it. So trying to pair water with electrolytes as well. And we could always go down a rabbit hole of electrolytes, how it works within the body and so forth. But the main thing is understanding and just being aware of both hydrating in the sense of H2O, but then combining that with electrolytes. And when I say constantly, that means you want to make sure, especially in the times within your academy experience where you're going outside, being in the heat, maybe doing a lot more hands-on activities, a decrease of, I believe, 2% of your body weight, a reduction of 2% of your body weight purely from hydration. You're going to see cognitive function decreases as well as decreases in performance. So being mindful of how you're hydrating is going to go a long way of just optimizing, being one step ahead to prior to training as well as prior to being able to really hone in and focus during curriculum activities. I'll also say that when I say hydrate constantly, hydration is not a, hey, I have something very taxing tomorrow at 4 p.m. So at 2 p.m., you just start downing water and you start downing packets of electrolytes. What hydrating constantly means is, what does hydration look like 24 hours before, 48, 72, and so forth, right? How does the past 3 days look like of hydration prior to a very taxing day? Because as you know, or maybe you're aware of, maybe you're not, there are certain days within academy for fire. You might be outside doing different searches in full bunker gear, looking at basement searches. You might be doing live burns. You might be doing various things, whether you're in gear or not. You're probably outside in a hot environment. And then on law enforcement side, you might be outside on the pavement, whether it's practicing stops, practicing reports. It might be, going through your driving skills where people are waiting outside when they're not driving. It could be standing at the range all day long. So being mindful of kind of those bouts of curriculum or experiences within the academy. How can you prepare days in advance by just being mindful? I'm not saying, hey, Monday is going to be a very extreme day. I need to really hone in on Sunday and just this is how much water per ounce, per every 2 hours on the dot, this, that, and the other. You don't really have to draw it out that way. You can, don't get me wrong. That's perfectly fine. But for most people, understanding, hey, this is going to be a tough week over the weekend, I just need to make sure every so often I'm drinking a bottle of water. Maybe I'm adding electrolyte packet or some kind of sport drink here and there. It shouldn't be something you do all the time because many sport drinks are loaded with sugar. And if you're not as active, you really won't need all that sugar all the time. But just being mindful in how you're hydrating prior to certain types of training, certain types of testing, and certain types of curriculum. Next, next strategy, number six, we dive still into hydration, but I just mentioned sugary beverages. So those calories are still going to count. When you're looking at weight loss, you're looking at fat loss. You might be hydrating by buying Gatorades, buying sport drinks, and then going, well, I'm drinking these Gatorades. These are great for you, right? Well, if you're drinking 5, 6, 10 of them a day, and they're all loaded with sugar and you're not very active within the day, and maybe you're active, but your body type specifically, you're not burning as many calories. Maybe you feel like you're active because you're in the sun, but you might not be as active physically. Yes, you'll still need replenishment depending on how hot it is outside and how much you sweat, how much you need to replenish. But just because you have class and just because I say hydrate and have water plus electrolyte doesn't mean you can sit there and down all of the sport drinks. And I've seen it plenty of times where individuals will just constantly down sport drinks and go, well, it's a sport drink. It's healthy, right? Just because it's a sport drink doesn't mean it's something you should down all the time. Doesn't mean you should not be mindful of the amount of calories in there, the amount of sugar that are in plenty of sport drinks. The intention of those sport drinks are when you're physically active and you need something that's fast acting to replenish the things you lost, then every, let's say extended period of time of physical activity, maybe every hour, having one of those or a serving of whatever that sport drink beverage is. And there are different nutritional strategies to be mindful of and formulas and so forth, but I'm just talking in a very general sense. So being mindful of the calories that are actually and the sugar that are actually within those sport drinks. The next strategy we're going to take a look at, strategy number 7, is understanding that one meal can still throw you over the top. What that means is you might be very, very good with your diet throughout the week. Doesn't mean you have an extreme deficit, meaning you're eating way too less calories. But this could mean you're very mindful of your selections. Hopefully, you're monitoring protein intake, so you're at least repairing muscle. But when we look at fat loss and we look at weight loss, usually you tie that to eating less calories or consuming less calories, which is the right way to look at it in a very general sense. But you might eat just a tiny bit less, or let's say instead of 2,000 calories, you have 1,900 calories in a day. Deficit. At some point, you start losing weight, but it's very minor deficit. So let's say you do that throughout the week, and then on Friday or Saturday, you just binge. You eat everything and anything because I've seen it. I've also done it, so I understand firsthand experience. So you eat everything and anything under the sun on that day, or maybe you have a large pizza, you have some ice cream, you have all of these extra things. Guess what? Those 100 calories, right, on one day times 5 or 6, so 500 calories, 600 calories, and then you have all of that food on that special day, your cheat day that is very well known to be called cheat day or whatever you might call it. Um, you are turning around and instead of the 500 calories, you are in a deficit from eating 100 calories less. Now you're in a surplus of 3,000 calories just off of that day. The body doesn't work in a sense of, hey, after you go to sleep and wake up, yesterday doesn't matter. That's it. In a weekly setting, in a monthly setting, everything carries over. So at the end of the week, if you're only down 500 calories and then you eat 2,000 or 3,000 calories more, literally everything that you did throughout the week, every single day. I'm not saying the mindfulness and sense of selection and protein intake doesn't count. What I'm saying from a fat loss and weight loss perspective, truly didn't count. You're not going to be losing the weight that you had hoped for because you ruined all of it at the end of the week. So just being mindful that every day does count and you can break your diet in a sense of ruin your diet by that day of binging. Moving on to nutritional strategy number 8, where we take a look at calories and mainly carbohydrates in the sense of how active you are throughout the day. So what I can say is from a caloric expenditure standpoint, for sure, very straightforward. The more calories you burn, the more you are able to consume and not gain weight, as well as the more you need to consume if you're wanting to maintain or build beyond that. So caloric expenditure in its sense is very straightforward, but so are carbohydrates. The more active you are, the more calories you can have, the more carbohydrates you can have. We have to start being a lot more mindful of if I am very sedentary, I do not need as many calories and I do not need as many carbohydrates. And so when you're making your selections for your snacks and for your meals and so forth, I want you to reflect on how active was I today? How active have I been in the past 24 hours? Because maybe if you're snacking or you're eating, you're trying to replenish the calories you burned, or maybe the muscle that you broke down over the past 24 hours. Maybe yesterday was very strenuous, a lot of activity, a lot of moving around. Maybe you're very sore. Okay. Maybe you should bump up your protein intake and maybe eat a little bit more calories than you're used to or than is required to maintain. But if you're very sedentary, especially in the classroom setting, you do not need those extra calories. You do not need those extra carbohydrates. So it's a purely a decision for you on whether you just want to consume those be turned to fat in your body and stored as fat within, as fatty tissue within your body. That's purely up to you. What I'm saying is, from a mindfulness standpoint, understand that both calories and the amount of carbohydrates in a very general sense are more of activity and replenishment types of nutrients. So we need to be more aware of how active we are and have a true understanding and awareness of how active we are and how much we should indulge in a surplus of calories, as well as how many carbs we should be eating. Now, carbohydrates are not bad. Carbohydrates are amazing for you. They also are the macronutrient that's going to have the most micronutrients in there for you. You need carbohydrates in a very general sense, unless you have a specific condition. You need carbohydrates in your diet in some form or fashion. Whether you choose specifically veggies, vegetables, carbohydrates are going to be a great source of your vitamins and minerals, as well as your fiber. So needing carbohydrates in your diet, not all carbohydrates are built the same or weigh the same in the sense of value for replenishment, and for nutrients. We just need be a little bit more mindful there. Next strategy, number 9, intake before training. So I'll say this: if you're used to physical fitness and you just prefer not to have anything to eat prior to training, then you've made that decision based on experience. But many times, as I work with recruits that are not as savvy in physical fitness, and might not eat just because they don't want it interacting with them, moving around and doing physical activity. Personally, for me, and what works for me is I'll have something light, very simple carbohydrate, something easily digestible, about an hour, probably an hour and a half before training. If I train in the morning, or when I train in the mornings, I might have something sugary, but it might be about 30 to 40 grams of sugar. Maybe a protein, maybe not. It just kind of depends. If it's a protein, it's usually a liquid, like a protein shake or something, just something in my system. So after an hour, hour and a half, when I start to train, then I still have something in my system. So I don't feel like my blood sugar is too low. Doesn't mean it's not possible. I've trained plenty of times fasted. I know plenty of people that do train fasted. I'm not saying you can't, but usually when you're first starting physical activity, it takes a little bit more of a toll on you and you're trying to figure out what works for you. So I would recommend, whether it's morning or afternoon training, having something small, having something in your system, but nothing that's too heavy, nothing that's too fatty or greasy. Nothing that is just random where you haven't had it before, don't really know how your body's going to respond to it. So just being mindful in what your food selection looks like prior to training. But if you're new to, or maybe you're not as experienced in the physical fitness environment, having something in your system that's going to help you just feel better and perform better, and not be halfway through the training session and just feel that empty pit at the bottom of your stomach. Next, going into strategy number 10. This is it's nutritional in the sense of vitamin D, in the sense of micronutrients, but it's not nutritional in the sense of actually consuming something. But I would say take breaks and acquire some sunlight. So if you're in a classroom setting, depending on windows and light exposure, it's going to benefit you both from a physical activity and moving around, being able to leave the classroom, walk around the halls, walk outside, maybe prop your leg up, stretch your hamstring, cross your leg over and stretch your hip, stretch your glute. Especially again, if you're sitting, you're very sedentary in the classroom, your back's probably bothering you, your hips are bothering you, maybe your hamstrings get tight. So just moving around, but then being exposed to that sunlight, acquiring the sunlight, and the nutrients you get from the sunlight for body processes. That sunlight exposure to receptors in your eyes kind of waking you back up, indicating, giving cues to your internal clock, your circadian rhythm. So highly beneficial to take those little bouts of sunlight exposure as you take breaks. Most academies, either every hour on the hour, especially instructors. As an instructor, I like to take breaks because I'm talking for a large portion of the time. But then also, if it's not every hour, then every 2 or 3 hours, there are a handful of times you're going to be taking breaks. So take advantage of those breaks. Next, going into nutritional strategy 11, reduce or eliminate tobacco and alcohol. Now, I didn't say reduce, I didn't say just eliminate, that's it, get rid of it, because there's ideal and there's realistic. So I'm very realistic in my approach and recommendations that I give. We know that now you can try and battle me all day long, but we know that tobacco is bad for you and we know alcohol is bad for you in a very general sense. When we talk about health benefits, those two are bad for you. Now, what I'll say is we all have our own vices and we all have our own routines, the way we deal with stress and so forth. And I've had these battles back and forth with recruits where I go, hey, it is bad for you. And then it's an argument back and forth. And what I will say is, your stress management strategies, although you see it in a sense of stress management, what I'll say is you might be thinking you're dealing with stress, but you are coping by masking things. And for instance, whether it's tobacco use, smoking and so forth is going to be bad for your health in a sense of anything from increased risk of cancer to lung function to anything from bacteria buildup to sleeping patterns, just teeth, just all of the things, right? Harmful to you. Alcohol consumption, right, might help you go to sleep. First, it's a high, then it's a low, and then it might help you go to sleep as a sedative. But it is going to encourage and actually give you poor sleep. So you might be going to sleep, and we know this through research studies. I know this through self-experiment from a sense of biofeedback, looking at my HRV post consumption, even just a glass of alcohol. Can actually have a negative impact on your sleep when you're looking at going through your different stages of sleep and looking at your recovery and your HRV post consumption or a night post consumption. So we know those things are bad for you. We know that. You're not going to argue with me on it. We know those are bad. Now, I'm also realistic. I know if you are doing these things, consuming these things, you're not just going to quit, cold turkey, and then that's it. So I say reduce or be mindful of when you are indulging in these things. Understand that they are bad for you and how can you take steps toward reducing and potentially down the road eliminating these bad habits. But how can you reduce these things? I'll also say very loosely, and I know this can be controversial. What I'll say is, especially if you have kids, you have a family, and so forth, and you go, hey, I would take a bullet for my family. I would do anything for my family. Would you stop smoking? Would you limit the amount of alcohol you consume for your family? Is a point blank question. And so I ask that thing of you. Can you be more mindful? I'm not going to say go home and that's it, never again. What I'm going to say is, can you be mindful of your habits and your selections? And then last but not least, redefine what nutrition looks like for you and what the meaning of diet looks like for you and sounds what it sounds like, right? A diet is just a way of eating. If you can redefine in your head and eliminate that a diet is purely restricting foods, going hungry, and trying to lose weight. If you can turn a diet and you can turn nutrition in a sense of fueling your body for the things that are necessary for optimal performance and health, now you're being mindful of your selections. Okay, now I'm choosing things. I want to be healthier. I want to perform better. I want to repair. I want to recover. When you start thinking in that light, I want to be more alert and I want to make better decisions. All of that is impacted by nutrition. Every single one of those things I stated are impacted by nutrition. And so it's up to you to really redefine what nutrition means to you and then making more mindful decisions. So, like I said, here we have those 10 nutritional strategies that are going to help you during your academy experience. We said with energy drinks, finding alternatives, whether it's 0 calorie options or just better options from a nutrient label standpoint, pairing snacks with proteins, snack selection. If you can bring things from home, even better. Monitor protein intake, hydrate constantly, even understanding hydration is not just water intake. Realizing how many calories are in your hydration beverages, understanding that even if you're in a caloric deficit, one horrible day of eating can impact whether you lose weight or not. It can impact your weight loss journey. Number eight, understanding that calories and carbohydrates are activity nutrients, right? Physical activity, physical exertion nutrients. We need more of these when we're physically active, and we need less of these when we're sedentary. Intake before training, having something in your system before you train can be beneficial, especially if you're newer to training. Taking breaks during the academy day to go outside and acquire some sunlight, maybe stretch a little bit. Number 11, reduce or eliminate tobacco use and alcohol consumption. And then number 12, redefine nutrition. What does nutrition mean to you? Is your nutrition, and your nutrition should be perceived in the light that is for optimal health and recovery, repair, and building. So again, hopefully these strategies are beneficial to you. I want these to be areas for you to be mindfulness, be successful during your academy journey.